Hello, everyone. This is Michael Cunningham from the Golf Science Institute. And today we have the founder on, David Bass. We're going to give you some insight of what the Golf Science Institute is about, what the goal is, what our platform is. And we're going to be having different guests throughout the different sessions. And I'm going to let David take over to introduce himself and just tell you a little bit about it and what is the platform and what is our goal. Hey, David, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Michael, I appreciate you sitting in with us and helping us monitor this new group. We founded the Golf Sciences Institute to react to a global shortage of quality information. And I've been talking to people from all over the world in different countries, different parts of the golf industry, whether it's from your weekend golfer or your individual who wants to pursue a living doing club fitting and swing analysis or golf instruction or anything in between. There's a shortage of educational curriculums. So the Golf Sciences Institute is here to confront the issues when it comes to equipment, to techniques, and also to strategies when it comes to playing golf.
Okay, that's great. All right, David, that's really good. I like that. And just want to add one thing that David and I we talk about is removing the gray areas, and that's in golf instruction, that's in fitting, that's in clinics, that's in education, that's just in general with conversations we have in life. If we can remove the gray areas, it just helps everybody involved. So where did you come up with that concept of removing the gray areas?
So I've been in the golf business for over 50 years. I became a club fitter slash club repair guy in 1978. I started teaching about 9 years later in 1987, and running back and forth from the driving range in the evenings, giving lessons, and back to my shop during the day doing club repairing and that type of stuff. Back and forth between teaching and club fitting, I figured out that you really can't be a good club fitter unless you understand the golf swing back and forward. You really can't be a good instructor unless you understand golf equipment, because there is a cause and effect situation to where their golf swing is affected by their equipment, and their equipment is affected by their technique. So if someone, the Golf Sciences Institute has created this title called a professional golf technician, to where we're going to train somebody to be fluid in the cause and effect of the golf swing and the equipment, so that when they stand and help someone, they're going to be able to move both situations forward. And we really don't want to have a situation to where someone is saying, well, this might work, or that, let's try this. I want to have a situation to where you understand it so well that you say, this is it, and this will help.
Okay, great. Okay, David, do me a favor. Give us a little bio about yourself. Where'd you train, your desires, and your mentorship, and things like that. Let's start right there.
Okay, so I started in the golf business as a assistant greenskeeper when I was 14 in 1971 at a golf course called the Eagle Crest Golf Course outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. It's no longer there, but I got 7 years in and wound up being the greenskeeper, cutting greens 7 days a week and working in the pro shop. We were a major retailer of golf equipment, so in 1978 I got called by a couple of guys that wanted to start the first off-course shop in North Carolina. So we started the first off-course shop in North Carolina in 1978. The two gentlemen stayed back in the back and did club repair for about 50 golf courses, and I took over the store. After about 2 years, the younger brother took over the store and put me back doing his job, which is the shafting and custom work.
Okay.
We moved to a bigger location in 1982, and I was able to take over. We wound up having a Wilson, Spalding, and Hogan, and several other companies authorized repair centers. Thusly, we wound up with 850 golf courses up and down the East Coast that we did club repair for, and also having the opportunity to build clubs for really good players and competitive players and tour players. At that time, I left that company in 1987 and started my own business behind my house in Cary, North Carolina. Wound up with about 6,000 customers that would come to behind my house there, and then I had about 75 golf courses we did work for. Fast forward, I wound up being the head club fitter at a top 100 pro shop in 2002 at Hillendale Golf Course in Durham, North Carolina. We had 6 PGA professionals, 1 LPGA, and myself, and we did a lot of fittings. I wound up being on the teaching staff there, and that was a great experience to move my career forward. I wound up being the vice president of the Professional Club Makers Society in about 2007, until that organization dissolved itself for many reasons. But through that and being on the Education and Training Committee, I was able to have quite a bit of experience in putting this organization together.
Oh, that's great, Dan. I'm going to give people just a little bit of background on myself. So I'm Michael Cunningham. I got into golf. My father got me into golf. All of us as a little child. I mentored under Jimmy Woods at Avon in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they have actually named the center the Jimmy Woods Center now. Then I went and did more mentorship under James Black in Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of, if you hear the name James Black, people know James Black, all over. And then I spent about the last 4 years, I moved to Jacksonville just to work with Calvin Pete. So that's where my golf instruction background came from. Jimmy Woods, James Black, and Calvin Pete. And it made me realize the difference between golf swing and skill. And the better players are focused on skill, and they have their equipment that allows them to perform the skill. Whereas we see a lot of Joe and Sally golfers, they are so concerned with golf swing and they never master skills. And what I liked about talking to David was how we was both on the same page, where you cannot separate the golf fitting technician from the golf instructor. They have to be coincide. They have to work together. And sometimes, like David and myself, we do both fitting and teaching. But when we work with a coach that doesn't do fitting, we work hand in hand with that player. So from that, again, the Golf Science Institute, we're going to offer clinics, education, certifications. It's just going to be a gamut of everything. We're going to be into the science of the equipment, the science of the golf swing, the education part of it. And it's just going to be something that's really, really needed in the industry, because there's a void out there across the board when we talk to people. So, hey, David, let's get
I
into
think,
these questions, all right?
yeah, go ahead.
All
Go ahead.
righty. Okay, so for those who may not know you, we already did that one, all right? How often do swing issues get misdiagnosed when the real problem is equipment?
So I have a couple of statements I like to make. Poorly fitted equipment can drastically affect a fundamentally sound golf swing.
Okay.
Number 2 is properly fitted equipment can drastically improve or help a less than solid, fundamentally sound golf swing.
All right,
So
let's
in both
address the
cases,
first one first. Let's
yep,
address the first one first, okay?
okay.
Go
So
ahead.
when you have somebody who has a fundamentally sound golf swing, that means their grip, stance, posture, alignment, their basic move is okay, and their golf clubs are, number one, they're inconsistent, which means they'll have a driver that's really stiff, a set of irons that's really flexible. They'll have a couple of hybrids that are, the shafts are too light, too whippy, a 3-wood that might be too heavy and too stiff. So what happens is when you have an inconsistency in the total weights and the flexes, and in some cases grip sizes that are all over the place when in a set, your body does not have the ability to recreate your golf swing every time you grab a different club. So our job as club fitters is to get, number one, is to get the set makeup better so you have a better loft spacing. Number two is get the total weight better so the golf, when you change from a 7-iron to a driver, from an 8-iron to a 3-wood, back and forth, each club is going to feel almost exactly the same, and your golf club is going to get to the ball at the same time, so you don't have to recreate your golf swing. Most clients that come to us, regardless of what their handicap is, they have a duplication of lofts in their bag, which means they might have 4 different clubs at 18 degrees, and then they have all different types of shafts and grips in the bag, and so it's throwing their timing off. So our job is to encourage the golfer to get back to their natural rhythm and tempo by providing them with a set of golf clubs that they don't have to be somebody they're not.
Okay, within that, you said something that was really stood out to me. I've worked with some high caliber players myself, and one of the things that stood out to me, when you go buy a set of clubs from the box office companies, we're not going to disparage anybody on this channel, but we are going to just, we'll say box office companies. A lot of times the lofts are separated by 4 degrees across the board. But I've noticed when I work with some better players, they actually have the 7-iron. They'll say, when they say, Coach, I want this 7-iron to go this distance with my stock swing, and we'll tweak it and get it there. And then they'll say, I want the 6-iron to have that distance, right? So I've noticed with the better player, each club has a specific job and a specific duty. And for that player, it doesn't always fall into a 4-degree increment. Is that something that is industry wide, or is that just like something that a better player tweaks?
Well, let's back up for just a second and take a moment and talk about the fact that when you have a certain swing speed, your impact with the golf ball will react to a certain center of gravity in the club head.
Okay.
If the center of gravity is too high, your ball flight will be more piercing. If the center of gravity is too low, your ball flight is going to be too high. As you start to slow down in your swing speed, a lot of golfers that as they get older, for some reason, they're still under the impression that it is the shaft that gets the ball up in the air. It's quite the opposite. The center of gravity in the club head and the loft in the club head is what gets the ball in the air. The shaft is actually delivering the club head. So you can't take a high CG head and put a low kick shaft in it and expect that ball to be high. It will be offline, but it won't be high. So it is more or less control, getting the shaft in the head that is the correct weight and the correct stiffness to deliver the club head, but to choose the right center of gravity. When it comes to loft spacing, you're correct. Loft and lie angle is the lie angle in specific is the last thing I talk about, because sets of golf clubs, most really good players, they want their long irons a little upright to keep from losing them right. They want their middle irons somewhere in the middle, and they want their short irons flat to keep from losing them left. So you don't really have a situation where every club is 2 degrees up or 2 degrees down. It winds up being a little bit of a misconception. But if you are somebody that has a moderate swing speed to a lower swing speed, you actually would perform better with weaker lofts and again, like you said, catering each specific club to the specific need.
Great. From that, that's just, I mean, I love this because one thing we're going to do with these podcasts is we're going to have structure, but when we, as we're talking, if other situations arise, we're going to stay on that topic. And from that, I was just about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, one of my buddies, Mike Ramakowski, that owns Mach 3 Speed and Conditioning, we're going to get him on here also as he's a great guest.
Yep. Sure.
He was noticing that he saw a set of clubs that Tom Weisskopf had and another set of club that Byron Nelson had. And when they went back and checked out the lies and the lofts on them, they was like right across the board. Tom Weisskopf with, I think, 60-degree lie angle across the board. And which really, really, he contacted me and said, hey, check this out. Tom Weisskopf and Byron Nelson, they didn't have an incremental change in their lies. So we started playing around with that. And what I found out for me, my sweet spot was 60 across the board. But in my short irons, I actually had to come up 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees to make the set flow well. So I don't know the dynamics about that, but I thought it was always interesting. And now I've noticed I'm seeing people like Michael Neff and everything talk about this. Just the other day, I saw a podcast with him, and he was talking about the same thing, that a person should find their sweet spot lie angle. And then from that sweet spot lie angle, it's probably not going to be that much difference across the board throughout their set.
It's not as much as you think, but
that?
the biggest thing, Michael, is when your brain says to move it flat to keep that ball from going left, but then all of a sudden you're never hitting the ball in the club face, and nothing feels solid.
Okay.
You have to keep going back upright a little bit until that face feels square, where you feel like you're getting the club face to close.
That makes
The
sense.
the problem is that even if you had it standard lie and you made a golf swing that is anti-hook, that's one thing. But if you make the golf club anti-hook and make it really flat, you may have a really difficult time getting the square in the club facing, hitting it straight, or compressing the golf ball. So there has to be a line between your technique. Again, what technique are you using to make the ball either draw or fade or whatever you want to do? And in some cases you notice, like these golf pros, Scotty Scheffler and Abe Oberg, standing really, really close to the golf ball with a golf club that's relatively upright, but they're making kind of a fade swing with their hands really close to their body. That's contrary to your brain. When you're saying, I want to hit a fade, you're thinking about standing farther away from it with the face toe flat and the club face wide open. That's the farthest thing from the truth. Sometimes you can actually have an upright club and stand really close to it and put a fade technique on it, and you're going to compress the golf ball.
Yeah, that's another great topic right there. I'm with you 100% on that. I had a session yesterday, and the client of Ben Hogan, came up, and this client was actually holding off with his release pattern, holding off, and I asked him why, and he said, well, Hogan did it, and I said, well, let's just take this in a nutshell. I said, Hogan did probably 5 to 6 things that we know about to stop a sling and hook. And I said, but for everybody else, they probably wouldn't have to do 5 or 6 things to stop a sling and hook. And I said, so for my thing was, make sure that what you're doing is for your swing fingerprint and not for somebody else's swing fingerprint, So we got
Yeah, and there's so many other
Go ahead.
there's so many other things that weekend golfers do to make the ball go left. And I'll just name 2 or 3. Most of it is alignment, not getting their shoulders square, their left shoulder too low, gets their shoulders open. One is taking the club a quarter of the way back and then lifting the club with their hands because they're thinking they're making a golf swing and they're really not. The club's off playing by a foot. A lot of my clients, they start back and they lift that golf club. When you lift a golf club outside the plane, you're going to go dead. You're going to come right over top of it. So, and then in the process of doing all that, they start breaking their left wrist just past impact. And so there's all kinds of cause and effect that you have to back up and retract before you talk about, I want to do something like Hogan did. Your golf swing is nowhere near what Hogan's was. So let's go back and retrace what your cause and effect is first.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Here's a question that came in from emails, and we're going to put the email up for everybody so you guys can send in questions and we can talk about them. But this email said, when coaching a player mid-season, do you prefer changing movement patterns first or adjusting equipment first? And why to each question?
So if I'm starting to work with someone and I notice that they're having some issues, I will prefer to take one of their golf clubs to my shop and to build it to their specs and have them start practicing with that one club. I will point out to them an A, B, C, D list of little things that they can look at when it comes to setting up to it better. But when their golf equipment is so poorly fitted, I want to get that equipment, at least one club fitted to them as soon as possible, because practicing or working out with equipment that's ill-fitted is going to just go ahead and there's no way to retrain the body.
Right. I like that. So you want to get the proper fit 6-iron, 7-iron that player's hand as soon as possible, so that player can start
As soon as possible, because they don't know what solid feel is, and they don't realize how the total weight of the golf club is affecting their tempo. So my job is to give them something that's totally different than what they're feeling to help them move in the direction of a fitted set of golf clubs.
All right, great then, David. Great. Here's a good one right here. Are there any ball flight patterns that immediately tell you that the problem is not a swing issue?
Well, this is where you separate the good fitters from the salesman. You cannot walk into a store and get fitted in the same day with the swing you bring in the store. Okay. Because first of all, a golf equipment technician, someone who understands the golf swing and equipment, is going to say to you, you're an athletic individual, you have a relatively good basic golf swing, but here are the situations or the system that you're showing that is not correct. Let's go ahead and rework on this technique a little bit, and then maybe go back and refit you, because people come to me all the time, Michael, and they say, I just got fitted and here's my chart. And can you build me a set of clubs to the fitting chart I got from Club Champion or from Golf Tech or whatever? And I'm going like, I will do whatever you ask me to do, but my preference is for me to take you back on the range and refit you and reassure what's going to happen. And more times than not, the fitting is incorrect.
Okay, so that is a good one right there. So when you say the fitting is, because I have experienced that myself, right? And I was trying to find a term other than incorrect. Could it be the way that we fit that just make it more dimensionally, more dynamic? I mean, because I don't, incorrect it could be such a harsh term.
It's not adequate. Let me try to explain to you. I had a customer call me about golf lessons. He got referred to me by some other clients. He's 6'6" and a good athlete, a tennis player. got a decent golf swing. We did give him a lesson, worked on some basic things. He went and got fitted by somebody. He brought me to specs, and they're telling him he needs to have his irons 1.75 inches over at D9, because when they do their math at 1.25 inches, that's the only swing weight they have. They don't have the ability to grind heads or to customize club heads like we do.
That makes sense.
And they put him in. He was playing the Nippon Modus 3 120S, and all they did was put him in a 120X. It wasn't like they gave him any other options. So he went ahead and bought the shafts and grips. So when I remeasured him, so my wrist to floor is 38 inches. His was 38 and a half. So I'm playing 1/4 over. I said, all you really need, for instance, is 3/4 of an inch over. I said, you're tall, but you got long arms.
Yes.
So we went from 1.75 inches to 3/4.
That's huge.
Okay, so that's a big difference.
That's huge.
Huh?
Yes.
And he's much more comfortable at that length because he can stand up to it and not feel like he's got to move his arms out of the way to keep from sticking the club in the ground.
Yeah, he's playing with a better posture right there. So that is a huge adjustment right there. From
Just because he's tall, they said 1.75 inches, and so they didn't measure properly.
Right. I've run into the same situation where just because the player is tall, I have a player that played on the University of Illinois basketball team, and identical situation. Tall player, 6'8", 6'8.5", and they automatically put him in these overlength clubs, but his arms are just as long as his body, and when we remeasured him, he was only right about 3/4 overlength, you know what I'm saying? So we chopped off, we did some work, and it makes a difference. But also you said something there that I really want people to understand how important this is. You said that these other companies don't have the whereabouts to be able to grind out heads and get the head weights right and things like that. Just help the listeners understand how important that is.
Okay, so there's a situation like we call Ray Floyd the T-Rex syndrome, because he was 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", but he had really short arms. So when somebody is 6'4" with short arms and they're measuring 41 inches to the ground, as opposed to the average player at 35 and a half, it's virtually impossible to build a set of golf clubs at 2.5 and 3 inches over, because the industry produces club heads that are specifically weighted to a standard length or a 1/2 inch over. So even if you went to Mizuno and you bought the lightest head they have, and you're trying to build a set of golf clubs with extra stiff shafts at 2.5 inches over for a guy at 6'4" and short arms, you have to grind so much material off that club head. The club head's not even hardly existent. So there is a challenge in the golf industry that almost no company produces. And I'll give you another example. Graphite shafts require a heavier club head than a steel shaft does. Nobody makes a graphite weighted head. Nobody makes a head light enough for a longer shaft. So they all make very limited weights in the club head. There is some situations to where Ping is smart enough to have weights you can change out in the toe of the clubs to make the golf club lighter and heavier. But in most cases, there is no way to change it. So from a club making aspect, there is a real challenges when it comes to building golf clubs for every golfer. Wedges is another situation. We're always having to drill holes in wedges, and we're having to grind weight off of wedges. And in some cases to butt weight them to get the weight down, because for certain situations you don't want a wedge to be over a certain swing weight, especially when it comes to what type of shaft you have in it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the reasons why I've always gravitated to the Edel's irons, you can get them in 4 different head weights. You can get them in 4 different sole designs. He does a lot of old school stuff that we just don't see in the market no more. That And it could be, I don't know. I know that Mr. Muir said, I had talked to him, and Mr. Muir said the problem with today's clubs are that most of the master grinders and master polishers have retired, and they didn't really pass the craft on to nobody else. So everything is CNC milled now, and a lot of people think that everything is CNC milled now because it's a better situation. Well, a lot of companies have no choice but to use CNC milled, is because they don't have that master craftsman there no more that's grinding, weighing it, measuring it, weighing it, polishing it, weighing it. I mean, Mr. Muir said that every station, the person's, he's weighing it 14 times after he does everything. He's putting it back on the scale and weighing it, measuring it and shaping it. The detail that goes into that. And that's one thing that the Golf Science Institute is still offering, that level of care for clients. And so tell me about something. Why I had it right here on my notes, and I wanted to make sure we talk about this in this first episode. Tell me about the baseline set.
Okay, so if you bought a car and a used car, and you drove it off the lot and it's wobbling, you take it to a tire store, and he says, "Well, I can put you a $1,500 set of tires, or I can put you an $800 set of tires on there." But you say to him, "I don't really care as long as they're all four the same."
Correct.
And in a golf set, if you play baseball, for instance, you're going to have every bat you bring to a game is going to be the same weight, the same length, the same size. Tennis is going to be the same thing. Your tennis rackets are going to be the same. Our job is to build you the baseline set so we can begin to get feedback from you as to how to move forward. When your set of golf clubs is all over the place, you cannot give me any feedback because I don't have any basis to receive feedback unless I want to take every individual club and get different feedback from it. So once we build a set of golf clubs to where the center gravities are correct, the loft spacing is correct, the lengths are correct, the grip sizes are correct, the total weights are correct, the flexes are correct. We do this for college golf teams. We do this for high school kids. We do this for every level of player. We said, look, mom and dad, we got to build your child a baseline set of golf clubs so we can begin to connect and to get data from you, collect data from you, so that we know how to move forward. Does it need to be a little stiffer? Does it need to be a little heavier? But we don't never know until the first set is built.
And what I like about the baseline set concept, everybody out there is listening and viewing this, is it develops a long-term relationship between fitter, coach, and player, because now that individual, that player, knows that this is where they starting at. It's like if you had the same car concept, right? And all of a sudden you want a better performance out the car, right? So you're going to do what? You're going to maybe change out the cams. You may get some better quality wheels, some better quality tires. You may just simply add some better fuel to the tank. But that shop that you go to, you just don't go to any shop. Even with your oil, a person just don't say, hey, there's somebody changing oil. They trust a certain person to change their oil, and that's who they go to because the relationship has been built. And that's the same thing the baseline set does. It gives that customer client relationship where there's a partnership, and I really, really enjoy that with everything that I know. And I'm under the tutelage of David right now, learning everything I can about the fitting concepts, and it's taking me to a different level. I was already fitting and doing a lot of things like that, but just working with David has taken me to a whole different level of removing the gray areas. I mean, I can't explain how important it is to remove the gray areas right there. So David, this is great.
Yeah, I truly believe that I like to tell people it is this. This is what it is. I don't want to say, well, maybe. Okay? And that's just kind of what I'm all about is let's get it to where we can eliminate the gray areas and say, okay, this is what works, this is what doesn't work.
It makes sense to me, David. Okay, David, what's the biggest myth golfers believe about fittings that actually slows down development and scoring improvement?
Well, they think they want to get fitted, go in and get fitted for a driver. Okay, let's go in and get fitted for some wedges, get fitted for a putter. And the thing is that in all cases, they're going to somebody who basically has been trained by the golf salesman. Okay, they're not being trained by an institute or an institution that is teaching them all the details of, okay, this type of golf swing is going to create this type of ball flight. Okay, and I'm not saying there aren't some people who have a relatively good education out there, but you have to look at the whole picture. You have to look at the whole set of golf clubs and find out what it is about that set of golf clubs that is good for that client and what is either not perfect, could have some adjustments to it, or needs to be scrapped and replaced. And I think the biggest misconception is that you can go in with the golf swing you have and get a set of clubs and walk out with a better golf swing. And those two things are unrelated.
They're unrelated, exactly. So, what would you also add into the biggest myth that many golfers think that getting fitted is too expensive?
Yes, they think it's too expensive. Now, what we do at our company and the Golf Sciences Institute is we set up a personal file on every player, and it is permanent, which means you are now our permanent client. We don't leave you. We don't say goodbye when you walk out the door. Once we set you up as a client, you have access to us 6.5 days a week. You can text me, you can call me, you can email me and say, well, I just saw this club, I saw this shaft. What do you think about this? What do you think about changing this or that? Because you need access to someone who is not going to leave you.
That is great, David. That is great. Hey, I hope everybody is enjoying what we're talking about. We're covering a lot in this first issue, this first episode. But I think that, it's going to help everybody out to see the depth and of what we're trying to do out here. All right, David, how do you approach? Oh, this is a great one because, I work with a lot of juniors, a lot of elite juniors. How do you approach fitting juniors or developing players differently than elite amateurs and your tour level players?
Well, first of all, I want to make sure the coach and or the parents are standing near us when I'm working with the child. I will do the same thing I would do for anybody. I'm going to take the golf clubs into my shop. I'm going to check the frequency, the length, the total weight, the shaft flex, the grip size. I'm going to measure that child physically. I'm going to look at the parents and talk about their growth rate. We're going to build a set of golf clubs. Let's say they're 10 years old, and we're going to build a set of golf clubs to their 12-year-old to 13-year-old size and have them choke up and grow into it. I don't really care to build a set of golf clubs for that child the size they are when they walk in, because they're going to grow out of it in such a short span of time. So you want to have enough imagination to say, okay, this child is going to grow X in the next 2 years. Let's build a set of golf clubs to there. The other thing we do is we say, well, what are you shooting now? They're going to say, well, I'm shooting, 45 for 9 holes. I said, what would you like to shoot? They said, well, 36. Let's build a set of golf clubs that's going to get them to 36. And it's all about understanding what it's going to take to move that child forward. The biggest thing is the misconception that a child has to have 14 clubs in the bag, and they do not. They just need enough golf clubs to keep that bag light enough and give them some clubs that they can hit a variety of shots. So even 6 to 8 clubs is okay. If they want to be competitive and do what Dad does and have 14 clubs, it's up to them. But I definitely encourage the parents to Be aware of what this is doing when the kid's got to carry that golf bag. Keep it as light as possible. Make golf as much fun as possible. And again, have them realize that if there is an issue, the mom and dad can call me and say there's an issue.
There you go. And one thing that I love that, especially I work with juniors all the time that compete all over the country, all over the state of Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee. And the one thing that I love about not forcing 14 clubs on them, and I had to talk to parents about this, was that it taps into their imagination and creativity to learn how to hit all different kind of shots because they have a limited bag, so they have to start using their mind a lot more, so much more, so much more. And also, as far as the growing, I have clients that I've had the conversation with, but again, it's what the parent wants to do. Zip codes and income do matter. We can never get around that, right? So I've had parents who had wanted the set built for them right where they were, and by the time the summer tournament season came, the child was already outgrown the clubs and was getting.
Yeah, by the time they walk out the door, they're too short for them.
Yeah, because they
And
have the growth.
you have to have a little bit of
Habit.
imagination. I would encourage everybody to go to look up a little golf history about the 14 club rule. I disagree with it because it's very antiquated. But certainly for kids, 14 clubs is too much weight in the golf bag.
Yeah, and you know what, I have players chart they rounds a little bit differently when we training. And one of the things is what club did you use on your approach shot? And I tell parents, I say after 4 rounds, you're gonna notice you're carrying clubs that you never use, and let's get those clubs out the bag. And even with my adult players,
Get them in the closet.
yeah, they'll find out. Like, I'm carrying a 3-iron for one hole. For that par 3, I'm carrying a 3-iron for that one hole. And I'd be like, well, can we do something different? Can you choke down on the 5-wood? And, what's the purpose of carrying one club for one hole? It just doesn't make no sense. So I'm all on board with that also. All on board with that. Let's get to another question before we close out. Oh, Rue, this is a good one. What role does strike location and face the path awareness play in both fitting and decisions when you're going about fitting your clients and the instruction priorities?
Okay, so I'm giving quite a few lessons a week and doing quite a few fittings. And the number one issue when it comes to college players and tour players is they grow into or they learn maximum club face awareness. But in order to do that, you have to have either a club head that you can feel or a total club you can feel. So one of the rules we use is you put the golfer in the heaviest club they can swing comfortably. So if that golf club is super light, that's fine, but we want the swing weight up so they can feel the club head. The average PGA Tour player swings 130-gram iron shaft, so they're totally aware of where that club is at every second in their split second in their golf swing. College golfers still, they're all swinging 130-gram shafts. You don't see a lot of them swinging light shafts. When it comes to girls, even the girls, and when it comes to steel or graphite, you're looking at 85, 90 gram in their graphite shafts and their irons. There are some of them hitting 50 grams, but you got to understand that when you start going lighter, you have to make sure the swing weight is heavy enough so you can find the club face. Right. There's no situation in golf and this is where the fallacy is with the club faces. The corporations are building graphite shafted irons with steel weighted club heads. So you pick up a steel weighted club head and a graphite shaft, you cannot find the club head on your downswing. It don't matter what you're doing. So there's no way your golf swing can be consistent. And And it's one of the things I have to teach parents. They come into my shop with clubs built for young girls or young boys, and they got graphite shafts and their swing weights, C5 or something. Like, how are you going to find a club head on the back of the golf ball when you can't feel it? So it's all about what we call the balance point in the golf club, if you want to call it that, to where you got to make sure that your balance point is low enough so you can feel the last 8 or 10 inches of that shaft, and you can feel that club head. In some cases, we use super light grips on the club, which does increase the balance point on the head end, which gives them better head awareness and face awareness. And of course, now then you have to look at, once you get the golf club built, you have to specifically pay attention to the swing path that they're working on if they're on plane. So when you combine on plane with club head feel, initially the golf ball starts going straighter and higher.
Wow, that is some great information. Folks, I hope you guys are gleaning this. I would highly recommend you upload this, when we're done with it, and listen to it again. There's so many gems being shared right now. I mean, so many gems being shared. I mean, my goodness, I get excited every time I talk to David because there's not a curveball I can throw him. And the few that I have been able to throw David, he said, let me get back with you. And then he gets back with me, and it's like just the clarity is there. I mean, and that's the same level of clarity that the Golf Science Institute is focused on and dedicated to. So this is what you're going to be getting in our podcast, in our education forums, in our certification programs and everything. It's going to be
No
something you
BS.
really, really enjoy. Right.
Straightforward stuff.
Exactly. Okay, David, how should golfers evaluate whether a performance change came from better mechanics or better equipment?
So when you assess someone and you say, okay, I'm going to check them for grip, stance, posture, alignment, and then their initial takeaway to see if the club is on plane. And you check all the boxes. The club's on plane. They're moving away with the proper parts of their body, their footwork. In most cases, golfers, when they take the winter off, the first thing that gets off is their footwork, and they're paying attention to everything above their waist, but they realize their footwork is betraying them. And I have to tell people, your golf swing is better now, but your footwork is terrible, and it's betraying you. Okay,
David, you're on
so
point with that. You're so on point with that. I work with, I think the last 3 years, just me helping players improve their footwork has improved their total game. Just getting them to understand what's going on, like you said, below the waist. It's so much to deal with your how you slot the club, your transition, your consistency, your ball striking, your low point control, your face strike. I mean, it just has so much to do
well,
with it.
yeah, it has everything to do with the fact that golfers are so focused on the golf ball, they don't realize that 90% of the time that ball's on the ground, and you have your knees and your butt and your left hip have to focus on where the divot is. I'm not worried about the ball. I'm worried about making that divot past the ball. And by the time you get to the divot, the ball's done gone. But when you're swinging a club at the ball and not focused on the divot, you're never going to hit it consistently straight.
That's great.
So getting back to the answer to your question is, if I check all the boxes with somebody's technique, then I'm going to start looking at their transition. Most of the time, if the club is too light, they're going, or too flexible, their golf swing, their transition will be very short and very quick in the backswing. They won't be able to complete their backswing. If it's too heavy and too swift, they're actually going to take the club back too far, and they're going to yank too hard on it, trying to flex that shaft. and then they're going to flip it trying to get that shaft to move, so they're going to hit behind it. Um, so the body has the ability to adapt or to change to multiple types of stimulus. The golf club is a tool that provides stimulus to your hands and to your arms, so you react to that. So in the cases of a shaft being too stiff, you do one thing. In the case of a shaft being too flexible, you do another thing. So this is why it's very important to have a club fitter to match every shaft in your bag to be what I call flowed, which means the driver is going to be the stiffest, lightest shaft in the bag. The 3-wood's a little softer, a little heavier. The 5-wood's a little heavier, a little softer. The irons are consistently, the weight's good, so you can feel the golf club. And so to encourage you to fall back into your natural rhythm is what club fitting is all about.
Right. Give me 1 second. I have a big old Dogo Argentino that wants to go outside, okay?
Okay?
Come on, girl. They don't know when you're doing work. All righty. All righty. All right, here's a great one, David. Thanks, guys. Oh, and I know people may be looking. One of my top clients is a neuroscientist, and he told me that the brain needs water every 20 minutes. So I've been trying to keep water handy ever since that point. If you see me sipping on water, he's really, really pushing me to drink water, and everybody that I can tell, get water into your body every 20 minutes. He said the brain needs the water. Okay, so that's just a little pro tip from a neuroscientist that works with a lot of top pros.
Cool.
All right. If you were designing the ideal practice environment, how would you integrate fittings, movement training, and skill work into one system?
Okay, well, it's very important that when somebody comes in, regardless of whether they want to work on their swing or not, I'm going to start looking at their equipment. So I will say, come by my shop. Let's take all your clubs and let's chart them. And if I meet somebody for the first time on the practice tee for a golf lesson, I'm still going to go through their bag. I'm going to start pulling stuff out, looking at the shafts, looking at the grips. So I want to be able to create a data point of information for every client. So I'll start making notes. I'll start having them fill out a player profile. Okay. I'll start charting their golf equipment. I want to create a history on them. I want to listen to their frustrations. I want to listen to what their desires are, what their vision is for their game, what they want to do with themselves. I want to help them build a set of golf clubs to reach their initial goal. If they say, well, I'm shooting 100, I want to break 90, I'm going to build them a set for 88. If they're saying I'm shooting 85, I want to shoot 78, I'm going to build a set of golf clubs for 78. And when someone gets a set of golf clubs in their hands and they get some basic swing issues cleared up, all at the same facility at the same time, 8 to 10 strokes the first round less is not uncommon.
All right, great. I'm going to have one more question, and we're going to end this episode, David. But before we get to that question, can you let the viewers know if they want to contact you for fitting, for education, for certification? How can they get in touch with you? It's going to be in the show links also.
Yeah, so right now you can contact us at me at davidbassgolf.com or davidbassgolf@gmail.com. And then we have an email for the Golf Sciences Institute. You know what that is, Michael?
golfscienceinstitute.com.
Okay, yep. Yep. Is it authentic? I think it's gsiauthentic@gmail.com. Yep, gsiauthentic, yep. So you can contact me any of those ways and be glad to respond to you.
Great. Okay, David, let's finish up with one more question. And this is a real life situation right here. Okay, so everybody, I'm going to share with us how me and David work with each other and other people, all right? So yesterday I did I had 3 lessons and I had 3 fittings. One of the fittings I had was a relatively new golfer. When I say a new golfer, in my system, I have phase 1 through phase 4, and then I have my elite level players, right? So this will be a phase 1 player, a player that's probably shooting anywhere from 95 to 110 on a given day, right? So we went through the fitting system that David taught me. It's a dynamic fitting system. We're going to talk about that in our next episode. But at the end of the fitting, a brand new, what I call a phase 1 golfer, had the best sound, feel, vibration, and shot patterns in transition with a 90-gram KBS tour shaft paired with don't get this, with a Mizuno MP20 blade. That threw me off. I wasn't expecting a phase 1 golfer to have the best success with that combination.
So I used to have clients that would drive down to David Ledbetter's on weekends and come back to Raleigh and have me work on their clubs during the week. And the father would always put the child in a perimeter weighted golf club, and David always says, no, put him in a blade, put him in a blade. You're going to make him a better player. And I don't think, obviously when someone is 9 years old to 10 years old, 11 years old, it's okay to give them a golf club that's a little more forgiving. I don't believe at any point you should put a child or into a maximum forgiving golf club. I don't think they're going to help anybody other than somebody who really plays 3 times a year and at their family gathering, and they're not that concerned about being a good golfer. But the shaft is so much more important than the club head. I think it's a misunderstanding. You can have a really basically a pure set of blades with the correct shaft, and you can play golf. You can have the most forgiving set of club heads in the world with the wrong shaft, and you're going to shoot 30 strokes over what you normally shoot.
Yeah, that makes sense, because the one common denominator across the board, when we narrowed it down to 3 clubs, the one common denominator was that 90 to 100-gram shaft. That's the one thing that the transition was better, the strike was better, the sound, the launch angle, the window was better, and but he just actually, that makes sense what you said right there, David. The shaft, again, the shaft was the engine, and the head, it could have been just something as simple as it appeared to his eye, looking down at a dress to him, because the bigger heads, he hit them thin, the bigger heads. But as soon as we went to that blade, he hit it out the center of the club face, right down the middle. I mean, and he was like, "This is the one, coach." And I said, we're going to work back around to it again. Because I was kind of like, I'm a blade. I've been playing blades my whole entire life. So I have to make sure that I'm not putting my desires and likes on the other people. You know what I'm saying? If it was up to me, I want
Well,
everybody to play blades.
one
But
thing you might, big misunderstanding in the golf industry is an offset club actually hits the ball lower, and a golf club with less offset actually hits the ball higher. And these big companies are going to tell you exactly the opposite. So you can give somebody a high center gravity club head with a big offset, and the only reason it's going in the air is because of the high center gravity. It's not the offset. The offset is actually designed to keep the ball down.
keep it down.
So you can take a golf club that with a what they call an intermediate 5/8 inch wide sole with less offset and hit it plenty high.
There you go, David. There you go. Well, David, it's been a great episode. We talked about a lot. We covered a lot. Again, everybody, the listeners and the viewers, I would highly recommend do us a favor and share this and then listen to it again, because there's so many gems that, oh man, I mean, so many gems. I'm over here taking notes and everything as we're going, because I'm always learning. I believe we should, search for knowledge from the cradle to the grave, folks. Again, David, we
Yep.
appreciate you. We look forward to, growing this relationship and getting other guests on. And again, let us know again how we can get in contact with you.
Yes, sir. Again, davidbassgolf.com or davidbassgolf at Gmail or gsiauthentic at Gmail.
Thank you, David. We appreciate you, okay?
Yes, sir. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.